Hey guys, this is Jayson from Con+1, and I am here with Matthew and Matt from Onyx Publishing. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. How about you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Having a great expo. So, first of all, with Onyx Publishing, obviously you're relatively new, but you've kind of been born from possibly other things. Can you tell us a little bit about how Onyx Path kind of came to be?
Um, Onyx Path was founded by Rich Thomas, who was the creative director at White Wolf for 20 some years, and Rich had worked with CCP during the White Wolf merger, and he really likes publishing role-playing games, so he wanted to form his own company. And as CCP was doing less publishing themselves, Rich approached them and said, how about I license some of your properties? Plus he bought a few things like Scion and Trinity, and then he wanted to publish some of his own games and creator-owned properties, and that's how Pugmire came about, and we've been publishing ever since.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Pugmire actually, because way back, several years ago, I played in the playtest with Pugmire, with the author as well. So since that original playtest, obviously Pugmire has come about properly. What is the sort of general consensus for Pugmire and its future in terms of, are you going to be releasing any more books soon? Obviously it's about sort of dogs versus cats, but is it going to become, is it going to expand on that at all?
Well, Pugmire was very successful for us. We've done very well with it. Monarchies of Mao, the cat version, was also funded on Kickstarter relatively recently in the last year. And what that's shown by the fact that both of them have been funded is it's a universe that fans seem to enjoy a great deal. And in fact, right now, there is a Kickstarter ongoing. As of time of recording, there's a Kickstarter ongoing for Fetch Quest, which is a Pugmire deck building game, which is essentially Dungeons and Dragons played with cards, but in the Pugmire universe. So we have a demo copy here with some of the cards on display. And these are all pretty much printed, proofed, and ready to go. I think we're changing some of the art. Yeah, it's a concept piece.
The Kickstarter is helping fund some new artwork for the game, plus new missions and bonus cards. And we're now getting into some Monarchies of Mao cards as an expansion for the Fetch Quest game.
In the Pugmire setting, or world of Pugmire, realms of Pugmire, you have your uplifted rats, badgers, lizards, all kinds of creatures, and there's quite the capacity for any guide, the name of the GM in Pugmire, to start creating their own favourite animals, mammals or otherwise, that for some reason in the age of man were given sapience before man disappeared, and now you are playing their descendants, left with the mystery of where man went, what your relationship with this mystical man should be, and how you, of course, relate to the other creatures of Pugmire that are vying for dominance in that world.
Okay, and moving on as well to Vampire, obviously there's been a big thing about that recently with Vampire 5. So can you tell us a bit about the progress on that?
Well, Vampire 5th edition is White Wolf, as opposed to Onyx Path, although we are, of course, interested in doing some source books for it in the future, if possible. Right now, our biggest involvement in Vampire is Prince's Gambit, which is a party game, essentially. If you've got 6 or 7 friends, you play around a game a little like Werewolf, the card game, or The Resistance, the card game, if you've ever played those games where a couple of you are traitors and the rest of you have got to ferret out who they are. And this is a game set in the vampires world, a world of darkness, where your Camarilla vampires have to sniff out who the Sabbat vampires are. So, in simple terms, it's which of you are the murderous bastards who are trying to take down the city, and which of you are trying to protect it for your own Machiavellian reasons. We funded this on Kickstarter, last year, Matt?
Yep, and we're delivering backer copies this week, are going out, and then it'll be up for sale in stores and online late next month.
Yeah. So V5 is very exciting. That is what White Wolf are, of course, doing, and I have worked on that personally as well. So not just speaking with my Onyx Path hat on, I'm very pleased with where Vampire's going. I'm very excited to see what happens and the fan reception. And our intention, speaking for White Wolf, is that the core book will be on release at Gen Con, so August this year, and the Camarilla and Anarch books, so player supplements, should follow in the months following that up till the end of this year. So plenty of vampire love going on in the second half of this year, that's for sure.
And are there any sort of more major Onyx Path Publishing publications that you're going to be doing in the next few months? Because bear in mind, this is going to be coming out in November time.
Not that we can talk about it at this time.
They came from beneath the sea.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, obviously, you played your game today if it came from the sea. I really wanted to get into that, but I believe it was full at the time, and there was also a really funny game that I played at the same time. But I did overhear a couple of snippets. So firstly, how did the game go? But secondly, what were you hoping to achieve? Firstly, by running it here, but in terms of, how it was going.
Well, they came from B-movie, sci-fi, campy game, sci-fi, horror, farce at the same time, and I've been playtesting it pretty rigorously for the last 12 months across various conventions with home groups. I'm very fortunate that in Salisbury, where I live, there are lots of gaming groups, so I can playtest it with lots of different people, get them running it and me playing it as well. And so this is very much the capstone of any playtesting. The book now is written. All it needs is editing and art. And we will very soon be getting onto that. The intention, providing our schedule doesn't get too full, is to get it on Kickstarter this year. And then we'll be able to start previewing all the art to backers, and if there's enough popular support behind it, we can start looking at expanding They Came From Beneath the Sea, or expanding to They Came From Beyond the Stars, They Came From Beneath My Bed, various, They Came From Beneath My Bed is, I guess, your Goosebumps, point horror, Are You Afraid of the Dark style game. You could do Beyond the Stars is your Lovecraftian sort of game, and so on. You can pretty much take any cult movie genre and fit it into They Came From. And what we were doing with the game session today, I was really keen to sort of get back down to the roots of what drew me to They Came From Beneath the Sea in the first place. Because I conceptualised the idea, and obviously through playtesting, you playtest a lot of slices of the game to make sure it works. And this was just a pure They Came From Beneath the Sea game, ran for fun, and everyone loved it.
Yeah,
Crab folk had started possessing or inhabiting the bodies of 23 rugged sailors, and meanwhile a mad scientist running a pharmaceutical laboratory had used government money to snare Centipus, the 100-tentacled octopus, from the depths of the Pacific Ocean to sell to the highest bidder, communists or not, as a weapon, and the player characters were caught in the middle. So it was all lots of fun, quips being thrown around, cinematic effects being used liberally. But yeah, that was good fun, and hopefully it's a display of how the game will run when other people run it as well.
Yeah, I'm now even more jealous that I couldn't be in it. But there's definitely, and also I think with Pugmire, there's very much, there is this sort of serious aspect, but there's also kind of a lighter aspect as well, and yeah, the potential for it to be sort of maybe even more on the silly end. Is that something that you, sort of more of a concept overall that you wanted to do for Onyx Path, or was it just more these ideas kind of came sort of over time?
Well, I guess Onyx Path has been treated very much as the World of Darkness company or the Chronicles of Darkness company, and we can and we are producing games that are very different to that. They Came From and Pugmire are very good examples of games that do break that traditional horror mold. We also have Trinity, which is very much a pulpy superhero game. We have Scion, in which you're playing the descendants of literal gods of the Greek, Egyptian, and so on varieties. So it diversifies our portfolio, if you want to enter business speak, but it also gives the people who have faith in Onyx Path's products a broader range of games to play. Not everyone wants to be hammered with horror all the time, and speaking quite frankly, as a writer and a developer, sometimes it can get overbearing to do nothing but write horror. So it can be quite a palate cleanser for a team to work on something light-hearted after months and months of nothing but grim horror.
Having said that, though, what would you say was your favourite vampire faction and why, for both of you?
Vampire faction. Oh, I'll let you answer first, Matt. So.
Mine has always been the Ventru, just because they're the leaders. They're incredibly good at it. They can take a hit, and they manipulate the others into doing what they want.
I'm going to give the same answer, the Ventru, Clan Ventru, but Matt's probably talking from a Vampire the Masquerade Ventru. I'm saying mine are the Vampire the Requiem Ventru. It's a different game, but there's a core difference between those two Ventru. My Ventru grow increasingly mad with age. They also have the very fun discipline of animalism, which allows them to control animals as well as humans, and other vampires, beasts. The thing inside a vampire that makes him want to rage. The Ventru and Requiem can provoke that and manipulate it like a puppet master. I like that kind of thing. It makes you a real bastard at the table, but I am a bastard at the table.
Yes, you are. And for people who perhaps are fairly new to the horror genre, especially sort of gothic horror, what would you say would be the best type of vampire to start off with? Because there are quite a few of them, and then there's werewolf, obviously, and mage.
Oh, that's a good question. What's a good starting? Because if you were doing D&D, you'd often say play as the fighter the first time around, so that you can get the basics of the system. And I guess you could say the same thing for vampire. I suppose if you were playing Masquerade, Clan Bruja have a fairly obvious trajectory. They are rebels, they hate the establishment, they've got very physical disciplines, but can also command crowds. So that's the case. In Vampire the Requiem, I would probably say the Nosferatu, because they're naturally the most freakish, disturbing vampires. Everyone knows how to play someone slightly creepy, slightly dysfunctional, and it also means if you're not a terribly confident role player, you can edge into the game without playing the tyrant. You don't have to control everyone. You can just be the person that does things that no one else wants to do, and that means you gain a reputation and can enjoy being quiet and contemplative and occasionally coming out with horrible things. So I think I'd go Bruja and Nosferatu as my vampire picks.
But anyway, thank you guys very much for your time. And thank you as well, obviously, to your contributions for Onyx Path to Compass One. Finally, if there's anything you want to say to your fans who are going to be watching with Compass One, feel free to take the mic and do your little thing.
Okay, well, I guess hello there. I guess my advice to any fans is a lot of people will hear of games like Pugmire, Monarchies of Mao, and they might think playing dogs or cats in a fantasy setting, that seems childish, or maybe it seems family friendly. It's not the kind of thing my gaming group like. But I always like to emphasize this with games like Pugmire. Pugmire is a post-apocalyptic game. Humanity has left. Your creatures are picking across the wreckage of that world. You're picking up whisks and blenders and thinking these are holy items. You're finding, recipe books and thinking this is biblical tract. It's a game that can really turn very dark and dramatic very quickly, and the fact that you're playing uplifted dogs and cats is, if anything, even more tragic because they have no way of knowing what the truth of the world is. I think that Fetch Quest, the game, admittedly we've got it here, the preview, and it's currently on Kickstarter, is a really good way of exploring both the adventure, the heroism, the comedy, and the tragedy of Pugmire, because the number of missions in it explore both the treasure hunting, the sort of internal seeking that exists in both Pugmire and Monarchies of Mao. That idea, can I interpret what the code of man is now that man is gone? That's the last thing I would want to say. Is there anything from you, Matt?
Definitely come by and play our games at whatever convention you happen to be at, and try new games that you're unfamiliar with. That's the best way to find new treasure.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Just a brief message from Onyx Path Publishing and myself, Matthew Dawkins. Please donate. Donate as generously as you can. We are donating for children, and I guess if you put yourself in their shoes, so if you were ever ill as a child, one of the most fun things you could do to take your mind off of being ill or just to uplift your spirits is to play a game. So donating a little bit of money will help these kids have a much nicer time of their current situation. So please dig deep, be generous, and just think about what they're going through and how much better they might feel if they get a chance to play a game or two. Thank you very much.